Welcome, dear viewers, to the True Crime Channel. Today we'll dive into a true story as thrilling and mysterious as any fictional crime movie. The story of a young American who dared to do what few have done, and decided to escape from a notorious Turkish prison in the heart of an isolated island. Did he succeed? And what crazy challenges did he face? Let's begin this exciting journey. In 1970, a young American named Billy Hayes traveled to Turkey for a reason, but on his way back, something unexpected happened. He was arrested and thrown in jail. At first, Billy didn't think about escaping, but shocking news reached him inside the prison walls, news that pushed him to make a fateful decision, to escape at any cost. And the method he will use to carry out the escape can be described as completely crazy. This story will shock you with its unexpected plot, and I guarantee you don't want to miss the details. Our story begins in Billy's teenage years when he first tried marijuana and became addicted. This addiction led him in 1969 at the age of 22 to make a daring decision. He traveled to Istanbul, Turkey. Right out of the airport he met a taxi driver who offered him marijuana. Billy didn't hesitate and bought 2 kilograms of marijuana for $300, a small price considering the high quality he found. Here's where Billy's first smuggling plan began. He got the idea to use a leg cast after seeing how broken bones were set at the hospital where he briefly worked. He strapped bags of hashish to his leg and wrapped it in plaster bandages. The next morning he headed to the airport, and sure enough, he sailed through security. He arrived in New York with 2 kilograms of hashish. The first plan worked like a charm, and Billy made a lot of money selling the hash. But, as they say, greed is a dangerous thing. A few months later, in October 1969, Billy returned to Istanbul and tried again, but this time with a different smuggling technique, taping the bags to his body and wearing a loose jacket. This attempt worked too, but Billy wasn't satisfied, so in April 1970 he made his third trip and successfully smuggled another 2 kilograms. By September 1970, things were starting to change. The unfortunate events in the Middle East, especially the airplane hijackings, led to tighter security measures at airports. But Billy, blinded by arrogance and overconfidence, decided to make his fourth trip. As usual, he bought 2 kilograms of hashish and taped it to his body. At the airport, everything seemed normal at first, but after going through the initial security check, the passengers were directed to a bus to take them to the airplane. This is where Billy started to get worried. And as the bus approached the plane, Billy saw something he never expected: a large number of soldiers and officers waiting to inspect the passengers before they boarded. This was Billy's worst nightmare. He tried to pretend he'd lost his passport to avoid the search, but an elderly woman sitting next to him unintentionally gave him away. He had no choice but to get off the bus with the other passengers. And so, the thorough search of bags and bodies began. In a desperate moment, Billy tried to sneak through the line, pretending he'd already been searched. Oh, the desperation. Before his foot even touched the first step of the airplane stairs, an officer grabbed his shoulder. The officer started searching Billy, reaching his chest and stomach where the bags were hidden. But he moved past them, without noticing a thing. Billy was praying to his God in those tense moments. But, at the last moment, the officer felt something under his jacket. The officer's expression changed, and he pulled out his gun, yelling, "Bomb! Bomb!" Billy had a really tough time as he watched the soldiers aiming their guns at him. But surprise, there was no bomb. It was just bags of hashish. Billy was arrested and taken to Bayrampaşa prison in Istanbul. In prison, they shaved his head and put him in a cell block run by the inmates themselves. The conditions were harsh, and it was freezing cold. On his first night, he was punished. They beat him on his feet because he tried to get a blanket. During his time in prison, Billy learned Turkish and started thinking about the impossible escape. He heard about Bakırköy Psychiatric Hospital, where security is lighter, so he started acting crazy to get transferred there. Meanwhile, Billy's friend Patrick was visiting him in prison and promised to help him escape and arrange fake IDs. And indeed, Billy was transferred to the mental hospital after convincing the psychiatrists with his skillful acting. But a big shock was waiting for him. A letter arrived from his father telling him that his friend Patrick was found murdered in his hotel room in Istanbul after contacting criminals to forge documents. Billy felt guilty and hopeless, and the thought of escaping vanished from his mind. A month later, he was transferred back to Bayrampaşa prison. He was about to complete his initial sentence of 4 years and 2 months, and he was counting the days until his release. But fate had other plans. The American consul visited him and told him that the Turkish Supreme Court had changed his sentence to 30 years for smuggling. Billy's hopes crumbled. He had no choice but to escape. He was transferred to İmralı prison, a prison located on a remote island. Even though it was considered a high-security prison, the sea was the strongest barrier, making the high walls and intense security measures almost unnecessary. But Billy didn't give up. He noticed the boats that brought supplies to the island, especially the small wooden boats tied to the dock. On a stormy night, October 2, 1975, when the boats stayed docked because of the bad weather, Billy made his crazy decision to escape. After the evening roll call, Billy snuck out of his room with a small knife. He headed towards the harbor where the boats were docked. With great difficulty, he reached one of the small wooden boats and started cutting the rope that tied it to the larger boat. As he was doing this, he was almost discovered by the boat's owner, who was surprised to see the window of the larger boat open. Luckily, the boat owner didn't see him. Billy managed to cut the rope and sail away from the island in the small boat. It was a risky escape journey across the rough sea. He kept rowing for hours until he reached the coast of Bursa. From there, he took a bus to Istanbul and headed to the Hilton Hotel, hoping to find an Afghan friend who had promised to help him. But his friend had returned to Afghanistan. Billy didn't give up and used maps to figure out his route to the Greek border. After a difficult journey, he reached the Evros River, which separates Turkey and Greece. While trying to cross the river secretly, he was almost caught by Turkish border guards. But with his determination and cleverness, Billy managed to cross the river and reach the Greek side. There, he was arrested and detained for 2 weeks before being handed over to the American authorities in Germany. And then he returned to his homeland on October 24, 1975. Upon his arrival in New York, he was warmly greeted by his father amidst crowds of reporters and media outlets that covered his dramatic story. Billy's story became a public issue, and he became a famous person. After his return, Billy wrote a book called Midnight Express, telling his story. This book was later made into a movie with the same name in 1978. The movie was a big hit, but it also caused a lot of controversy because of its negative portrayal of Turkey and Turkish people. Even Billy himself disagreed with how Turkey was shown and later apologized for it. In 2007, Billy visited Turkey to formally apologize. Today, Billy Hayes is 77 years old, and his story remains a testament to the power of will and the burning desire for freedom. And now, dear viewers, after listening to this story full of excitement and mystery, if you have any questions about any details of Billy Hayes' story, please don't hesitate to ask in the comments, and I'll be happy to answer them based on the information available to me. Thanks for watching, and see you in another true crime story.